Alright, we're going to tie a Madam X, and I'm starting off with a size 8 hopper hook in the vise, and I'm going to use yellow 140 thread for this, and I'm going to start off just making some wraps on the hook shank to get the thread started and trim up the end, and then I'm going to advance the thread back to about the point of the hook. And now the tail material that I'm going to use for this is a deer hair. So I'm going to just take a natural colored deer hair, and I'm going to take off about half a pencil width of material to act as my tail. So I'll trim that off. I'll clean up any of the under fur, and I use just a comb to comb through that and get that out. And then I'll put it in my stacker to align the tips. And then when I remove it, I'll do one final look over just to make sure I've gotten all the tips aligned and all the butt sections removed. And when I'm happy with it, then I'm going to measure this out about half a hook shank in length, and I'll just start making some light wraps over top, and then each wrap I'll start to get a little more heavy-handed. Alright, now I can come up and clean off this scrap material, and I'll advance my thread through. This is all going to be covered with the Antron body, so you don't need to be real pretty with it. Alright, and as mentioned, we'll have an Antron body to this. So the Antron that I'm going to use is a golden Antron. And so this is the Antron yarn that I like to use for a lot of my body material. And I'll just take a section of that off, and I'll tie this into the side. And then wrap my thread up to just behind the eye. Now I can start to make just some nice even wraps with this, just to cover the body. Then I can tie that off in the front and trim away the excess. I'll just make sure that's wrapped in good and tight. Alright, the next piece that we're going to use is, again, we're going to go back to this natural deer hair, and I'm going to take natural colored deer hair, and I'm going to take as much as my stacker can. I've just got a medium-sized stacker here, so I'm going to take as much as I think it's going to handle. So this is maybe a pencil width or better, and I'll take that off the hide, and I'll go through the same process of just cleaning everything up here, running the comb through it. And when I'm happy with that, then I can put that in my stacker. And line everything up. Alright, I'll give it one final look over, and when I'm pleased with it, I'll start to measure it against my hook shank to make sure I've got the proper length that I'm looking for. So if I'm going to double this over the head, so if I take a look at the overall length that I'm going for, I want it to be able to fold. I'm going to tie it into the front, and I want to be able to fold it back so it hits just short of this, the end of the tail. So I want to take roughly the length of the shank plus the tail to tie in. So I'll just come back through and trim up my section. And then I can hold that against, and I'm going to take one soft wrap and the second wrap that I'm going to take straight down. So this is just like you're spinning a deer hair popper or something along those lines. So I'm just going to take my wraps through, and what I want to do is make sure that I get as close to the eye as I can when I'm making these wraps. So I'm just kind of feeling with my hand where the eye of the hook is to make sure I get right behind it. And each wrap I'm making putting a little bit more torque on it to make sure it's good and wrapped in there. Alright, so now I'm going to advance my thread back to where my Antron ended, and I'm going to push all of this back up over the head. And I'm going to try to force as much as I can above the hook. And when I'm happy with it, I'll start to take my wraps to get that head in there good and tight. Alright, now while I have it in the vise, I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to trim off all the bottom sections. I just want this to have a wing on top. Careful not to cut your thread at this point. And you can see it ends just about the tail. And I'll put just a couple more wraps in there. Alright, then the last piece that we're going to tie in here is some legs, and I'm just going to use a medium, and these are kind of gray rubber legs. I'm going to take out a strand. I'm going to tie these in on both sides, so just bend it over my thread and bring it up and clip it, and then I'll do the same thing to the other side. Alright, now I can just take my whip finishing tool and just go right over the top. Trim that. If there's any other loose hairs to take off, you can do so. I'm going to adjust the legs, and I'm going to trim these just a bit, just to make sure they're uniform on either side. And now finally I'll just take some head cement and coat that over the threads of this fly. That'll keep everything everything nice and locked down. It's a generous amount on the top and on either side. And that is the Madam X.